Tang.
Salam sir, selamat petang.
Salam sir.
Mana lagi yang lain? Oh, berketal
Ada yang
lagi.
kongsi sir.
Ha?
Ada.
Ada. Oh, kongsi. Alright. Sorry. Tadi dah bagi tahu pun lupa lagi. Okay. Today topik pendek ya. It's about memory. Kita sentuh sekejap Saya rasa hari ni. Okay. Now we are here. Week 6. Attention and memory. Okay, satu topik saja. Assessment ni abaikan dulu. Jangan terperanjat. Pasal kita ada satu je assessment kalau saya tak silap, and it will be conducted towards the end of the semester later on. So for today we are going to discuss only about memory. Sini. Okay, kita akan bincangkan apa itu memory, how we want to test our memory, and also why we lost our memory sometime. Okay, so let's begin. Right, this will be the lecture outcome for today. We try to compare and contrast working memory and long-term memory in terms of the duration, capacity, and the things that come within. And then we are going to try to distinguish three type of long-term memory. Okay, this is the three component of long-term. We have procedural, episodic, and semantic. Sekejap mana sunyi marker. Okay, tiga ni. And then we are going to describe what it means by declarative and procedural knowledge. And second, towards the end, we are going to discuss a bit about explicit and implicit memory test, and finally some cause of forgetting. Okay, itu benda-benda yang kita akan buat dalam memori lah. Okay, kita ya. Alright. So this is the definition of memory. Capacity to remember, that is memory. So some of you have a good capacity to remember things, some of you is not. Okay. Tapi cuma the thing is, you do remember, you do learn about things, you do remember, but you are unable to retrieve that. Tu cerita dia. Because when we talk about memory, okay, it comprises of two systems. Working memory or short-term memory and long-term memory. Okay, ada dua. Working memory and long-term memory. Working memory ni kalau dalam bahasa komputer dia, kita punya RAM. Okay, random access memory. 2GB, 4GB, 8GB, 16GB. That is working memory, or the memory that will be used instantly. While long-term memory is the storage. Kita punya ROM. Kalau zaman sekarang dah tak pakai ROM dah, dia pakai SSD, Stable State Drive. That is your long-term memory. So all of those information will be stored into your long-term memory. Kita punya, kalau dalam motor learning ni, kita punya GMP, our Generalized Motor Program tu kan, the blueprint is being stored in long-term memory. And when we try to use that kind of action or movement, all of those information will be transferred from long-term to short-term in order to be load. Okay, so long-term ni tu masih simpan. Dia macam storage. Working memory, all those memory that need to be used instantly will be transferred to working memory. And this process, they have several process. Okay, so function of memory, both long-term and short-term. First is storage. Ni more towards long-term memory lah. And then we have a retrieval of information. And finally is system specific function. Ini lebih kepada pengurusan badan, homeostasis, semua tu kan, how we control our body temperature, how we produce movement, how we think, all of those basic information being stored underneath in the system specific function. So these are the three function of memory, both short term and long term. Ingat tu je, long term storage, short term usage. Okay. So this is how our memory works. Okay, from working memory it will be sent to long-term memory. From long-term memory it will be extract to working memory in order to be used. So in working memory, okay, short-term ni, our RAM, our memory being divided into three different system. Okay, three different system. Ada tak sistem di dalam ni? Saya macam nggak ada. Tak ada. Okay, so the first system is known as phonological loop. Okay, this is the subsystem of working memory. Sekejap going to give you some extra information on that. So sebentar ya. Memory. Alright, sekejap ya. Saya cari lagi yang penting kat sini. Okay, so working memory ni, we can also name working memory as a memory of right now situation yang kita nak buat sekarang. Contoh, now you try to learn something. Okay, so all of this thing is going to your working memory, and then only it will be code and sent to long term for storage. Ini yang kadang-kadang contoh kan, bila you go for quite a long study and then tomorrow during exam date, all of those information, when you try to retrieve that, they hang, tak keluar. It does not mean you don't learn anything. It's just that whatever thing that you have learned being sent to long term, and the way you retrieve it is not matched. So the information is there, you cannot find it. Tu masalah yang selalu berlaku. Okay, because during working memory, the way you code that is quite problematic for you to retrieve. So working memory, we have three different subsystems, where the first subsystem is known as phonological loop. Okay, so phonological loop is the subsystem of working memory where it store information about all of those verbal information, the thing that you hear. Macam sekarang kamu dengar benda, it goes to your working memory as phonological. Okay, sebagai apa? Kita buka ke depan. Sebagai all of those thing that you heard, itu phonological. So information ni, it being stored in several type of information. Okay, thing that you heard, thing that you do, thing that you write, tu benda-benda macam tu. Okay, kita boleh tulis dia macam ini, lebih kurang ni begini. Okay, short term memory. So the first form of information in short term is your call it a verbal. Okay, verbal information in term of verbal being stored in subsystem phonological. Okay, and number two is visual spatial sketchpad. Okay, number two is visual spatial sketchpad. Ni dalam bentuk gambar. Okay, sketching. In here, information in term of visual. Okay, visual information. Okay, information of apa tu yang penting. Alright. Visual information regarding spatial and temporal. Okay, apa maksud ini? Alright, now let's imagine this one. Please hold a pen in front of you. Cuba kamu pegang satu pen dekat depan kamu. Okay, just hold a pen like this. Now, with your right hand, put this pen any place on the table and see it, focus on it. Okay, settle? Now, try to close your eyes and grab that pen. Imagine you see that pen, although you're closing your eyes, imagine that you see the place of that pen. Can you grab it? Senang tak nak grab pen tu?
Senang.
Itu adalah information visual spatial, because your brain, your short-term memory do take that visual information into consideration and able you to actually do that action. Same goes in sport. So when we observe things, those observation being stored in visual spatial sketchpad. Pergerakan tu macam mana sebelum kita simpan. So that is the reason why when you observe any action and you try to replicate on that particular moment, it's quite easy. After a while, susah sikit. Okay, pasal benda tu dah masuk dekat long term memory and you need to retrieve it back. Itu adalah information subsystem kedua dalam short term memory, which is visual spatial sketchpad. Okay, ataupun information regarding visual. And the third subsystem under short term memory is known as central executive. Ni yang ketiga. Okay, soalan saya, kat mana kita pernah dengar central executive ni? This is quite common term. Dekat topik mana kita pernah dengar menentang ni? Kat mana? Tolong jangan kata dah tak ingat. Kat mana? Ni masa kita belajar neuromotor basis. Okay? Neuromotor basis. At the end of the topic, I've shown you a diagram on how we think about action from the most top part of our brain up until the execution by the motor. And at the most apex of the brain is central executive, where all the information being stored. Okay? And when we try to execute an action, those information will be sent down by the central executive, and this is the central executive. So the third part of short-term memory hold information from long-term memory. This is the place where all the information from long-term memory being load. Ni yang ketiga. So ni adalah tiga benda maklumat or information that being stored by short-term memory. First, verbal. Second, visual. And the third one is the integration between short-term and long-term. Ni short-term memory. And from short-term memory, it will be sent out to the next component of memory known as long-term memory ataupun your storage. Yang ini your working memory. Okay. In your storage, all those information again being stored in several subsystem. Okay. So in our long-term memory, information being stored in three different form. One is procedural, two is semantic, three is episodic. Okay. Procedural is information that being stored in terms of procedure. How to kick a ball. Kalau sakit kepala sangat, that is your GMP. Tadi. Okay, how to kick a ball. First, you need to have a run up. Second, you need to have a contact. Third, you need to have follow through. Means the information being stored in terms of procedure. How to cook nasi lemak. First, buy lemak. Second, buy nasi. Combine. Nasi lemak. Something like that. Means step by step on how to do things. Okay. All of things. That is the first subsystem. Procedural means the information being stored in terms of procedure. Second, the information being stored in terms of semantic. Semantic memory is memory about knowledge. Knowledge about everything. The earth is round. The sun is hot. The water is cold. Apa lagi? Yamaha R1 is fast. Lagi apa? Kancil is both a car and an animal. Meaning, semantic memory store all kind of knowledge. General knowledge. All kind of it. This is blue. This is green. This is red. This is yellow. Why you say this blue? Because of semantic memory. Because people teach you that is blue. Okay. Ini tingkat 1, ini tingkat 2. Why tingkat 2 duduk atas tingkat 1? Because generally, lagi atas lagi banyak nombor. Mungkin kamu pergi satu negara nanti, tingkat 4 bawah sekali, tingkat 1 atas sekali. Dan dia belajar begitu. Okay, so semantic memory is all of the thing that you know based on experience and learning. It being stored there. Okay, and the last one, memory that being stored in term of episodic. Means it being stored episode by episode. Contoh, okay, episod kehidupan saya. Kejap. Hello, Alam. Oh tak, tahu berapa belum? Kena beli buku. Mm-mm. Borika. Bulan 9 ni kena wakil UiTM lawan universiti-universiti lain. Mm-mm. Kategori senior. Sukan Universiti Awam Malaysia. Macam tu. Berapa jam beli yang
Test.
basic. Beli yang basic teruk kan. Pasal jarak dia 15 dengan 30 meter je nanti. Yang kita ada kat rumah semua compound. Tak apa siap bulan 5 nanti. Nak pakai Advan, orang punya kad warna orange boleh Advan kan? Ha, okay. Salah tu. Okay. Untuk episodik ni, means the information being stored in term of episode. Macam episode kita tengok dekat dalam movie lah. Episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. Or in other words, it store information horizontally. Information that being used in a very long period of time. Kehidupan kamu, all of that means you can throw back. Orang kata throw back kan. Let's do TB, throw back. Macam mana kehidupan kamu 10 tahun lepas? Macam mana hari raya pertama hari tu? Huru-hara. All those is actually episodic. This is the three subsystem or how information being stored in term of our long-term memory. Okay, so ni adalah dua komponen memory. Sampai sini dulu. Do you have any question about this? Working dengan long-term memory. Ada apa-apa soalan? Okay, terjawab tak sikit sebanyak kenapa kadang-kadang kita tak dapat cari information that being stored, the thing that we have learned suddenly disappear from our mind. Dapat tak jawapan itu? Sikit sebanyak lah. Dapat tak? Kita dapat apa-apa, dapat ketawa je.
Dapat sir.
Dapat sir.
Kenapa kan? Kenapa? Sekejap Cell memory. Okay. Kenapa? Jap. Tengah confused kenapa dia masuk thank you. Salah ni. Okay. Okay, soalan untuk kaum-kaum wanita. Macam mana kau boleh ingat apa jadi dekat relation 13 tahun lepas tapi kau lupa dekat mana letak terus baju yang baru pakai kejap tadi? Cuba jawab. Maybe
Kalau yang jadi kat relationship tu menggembirakan ke?
Tapi benda-benda gembira jarang orang ingat. Benda yang menyakitkan tu selalu orang ingat kan? Okay. Tu sebahagian lah, selingan. That is what memory is all about. So they said from the clip, it's simple. Whenever you burn the memory with a thing called emotion, it will become permanent. Tu je. Tapi, okay, in real case, in learning, when we try to memorize something, okay, people have a lot of ways in order to memorize things. Some of you may, let's say to exam kan, you do some short notes, okay, with all those acronym. Some of you using a lot of highlighters, colors. Some of you even use what we call it, musics in order to increase your memory. Okay, so when you go for an exam or whatsoever, when you try to retrieve that, you tend to do the action again and again. Yang mana music tadi mungkin akan humming sendiri because that music contract with the memories. Itu cara lah, that is cara of you retrieving the information. The problem is actually retrieving. Okay, you have that memory actually. You basically, if you're able to use all of your brain power, you can actually know what everything that you do up until the early of the time. Umur 6 bulan bukan boleh ingat sebenarnya. It's there in your long term, but how you retrieve that is going to be a problem. Problem dia dah terjawab tadi sikit je lah. Okay, bersambung-sambung sini sana lah apa semua. Kalau yang ada nothing box tu, dia pergi nothing je. Yang lain daripada nothing box, dia tak minat. That is the reason why. Okay, so this is actually some of the definition again. Okay, memory associated with sensory, perceptual, attention. This is working memory. Okay, it is more towards right now situation. Okay, and the duration of working memory, it can maintain information for 20 to 30 seconds. Most of the time after this period of time, the information will be sent to long-term memory. Okay, cuma sometimes people do lost part of the information before it being sent to long-term memory, and the capacity of working memory is not much, 7 to 9 items, and that is the reason why people use a lot of strategies in order to increase the capacity. One of the strategies actually chunking. Chunking ni macam ni lah. If you see all of these letters, it does not bring any meaning. Okay, but if you put it or you give meaning to it, it become much easier. Okay, contoh macam ni. Berapa banyak huruf nak kena ingat ni. But when you chunk that one, it becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lebih kurang 12. Okay, you just need to remember 12 things instead of roughly around 36 random alphabets. Ini strategi. Okay, this is strategy. Same goes when you do your what we call it, when you do your reading. Okay, when you study. So this is one of the way for you to increase memory by using acronym. Buat satu nota 1-10, pendek-pendekkan ayat dia. Just remember the keywords. All of that is actually strategy in order to further enhance memorize. Okay, and then ni adalah working memory processing, information process to allow person to achieve, remember how to perform an action, solve a specific in the end. Okay, and then we have long-term memory. Long-term memory storage, permanent. Pak disebut permanent, meaning whatever thing that you have involved, it will be stored. Okay, but sometimes the storage is not complete. Sometimes it is not enough. Belajar 30. Okay, belajar 30 tapi ingatnya 8. 22 lagi lost along the way. That's the reason why. Kejap lagi kita tengok. Cuma you need to know this thing. Whatever thing that you have involved, it will be stored in terms of long-term memory inside your LTM. Macam mana bentuk storage dia? It depends on shape subsystem tadi. Procedural, semantic, or episodic. Okay, so the function of long-term memory allow people to have information about all of things. Past, okay, past. Present will be short term. And then the duration is unknown. Because up until now, people cannot determine the limit. When they know the limit, they know the duration. Because whatever thing that is old enough is going to be deleted. Tapi since kita tak tahu limit, so up until now, we don't use our memory, or we don't use our brain capacity up to the limit. Most of the time, with people that have a great IQ, they only use 20 to 30% of their brain capacity, not more than that. Kalau orang-orang macam tu pun guna 20 ke 30, kita ni lagi lah, maybe kita guna 10, 8% saja. There's a lot more to be done up there. Ni long-term memory. Okay, so this is the 3 type of long-term memory subsystem. Again, procedure, information about how to do, semantic, general information, and episodic, throwback. Ingat episodic, episode, throwback, information about our personal experience, and it being stored in term of film reel. Ni tahun lepas lagi kat belakang, tahun lagi lama dekat belakang. Okay, so sometimes we can recall that. Sometimes tak boleh. Until there's a certain situation trigger that information. Apa benda? Yes. Apa benda-bendanya tu samalah macam yang dibincangkan tadi, which is when we burn the information with emotion. Kena je emotion tu meluap-luap kan. Gaduh boyfriend, girlfriend, tercuit lah satu benda tu, terasa lah benda 10 tahun lepas, ungkit balik, Why? Because of emotion that being stored inside the episodic memory. Okay, so all of this information in our long term, it can be described into two common subsystems. One is known as declarative knowledge, another one is procedural knowledge. Okay, to describe these two things, saya nak kamu bayangkan macam ni. Okay, let's say you are a very competent driver. Contohlah, siapa rasa macam nak kena ini? Weh, dalam ni ada banyak sangat Maisara. Okay, please, salah satu Maisara. Nur Maisara. Are you there?
Ya, saya sir.
Okay, cuba, kamu dekat mana sekarang?
College.
Okay, do you drive?
No.
Eh,
I mean,
Can-
saya
can
drive
you
je
drive?
tapi tak adalah bawa. Yes.
Okay, cuba share dengan kawan-kawan kamu macam mana kita nak drive daripada college nak pergi ke Aeon S2. Silakan. Awak cerita je macam mana awak terasa, just cerita je.
Cerita dia punya laluan ke apa?
Tak kisah, saya nak dengar kita boleh sampai S2 ke kita boleh sampai mana-mana tak sampai S2.
Saya dah lah tak ingat jalan sir.
Ah. But if I give you car, can you go to S2?
Nah, kalau tengok GPS boleh.
Aduh, okay lah, S2 jauh sangat. Okay, please try to share with us how to drive to apa kat belakang tu Domino Rasa Jaya. Can you do that?
Domino Rasa Jaya. Sekejap, saya ingat balik Sekejap.
Kat Rasah boh, kat belakang.
Kat mana
Dekat traffic Rasah belakang tu ada Domino.
Sekejap.
Family store atau
mana
family store?
tahu. Oh, yang dekat situ. Okay.
Okay, cuba describe macam mana nak sampai Domino.
Sekejap, saya ingat balik. Saya malu rasa.
Janganlah begitu.
Okay. Mula kita keluar. Saya tak tahu macam nak explain.
Tak apa, explain je, explain.
Okay, kita keluar apa? Kita keluar UiTM ni, kita ambil kanan and then kita terus je sampai mana weh? Sampai. Aduh, saya ni dah lah tak.
Come on Faris, jangan nyampuk Faris. Tak apa.
Faris je lah, suruh Faris je lah.
Nanti dulu kamu
Saya
dulu.
dah tak
Saya dah dapat dengar tadi mas keluar UiTM belok kanan tegak. Sampai mana tak tahu.
Kena sampai mana? Sampai
Sampai lah Domino
tiba-tiba sampai Domino saya.
Okay, kita panggil Faris lah, kita panggil Faris. Faris, masuk Faris.
Mana Faris?
Faris Adib. Oh, senyap. Oi Faris, masuk Faris. Faris. Mic rosak, dah handal mic rosak. Okay, fine. Kita ambil mangsa lain. Siapa yang rasa macam nak jadi mangsa petang ni? Serius, okay, I know. Minggu lepas pun kamu bagi benda yang sama. I know that saja je. Engku Siddiq.
Yes sir.
Okay, kamu kat mana?
Saya kat dalam kereta ni sir.
Kau berhenti tepi jalan ke apa?
Tak ada lah, saya on the way nak balik rumah sewa.
Oh, ya ke? Okay, tak apa. Teruskan mandu. Nabil Isa, kata warna hijau. Nabil.
Okey saya.
Okay, kat mana? Kat mana tu?
Saya dekat luar tapi tak apa, boleh je. Ada, saya dengar je daripada tadi.
Dekat luar ni tengah mandu ke apa?
No.
Hello?
Oh, Faris. Faris dah
Saya
ada
tengah
lah.
mandu.
Ada sir.
Faris kat mana? Kolej?
Saya kat kolej sir.
Okey, dekat kolej. Cuba tadi si siapa Mai tadi kita nak pergi ke apa tu? Domino tak sampai. Kita mungkin berlanggar dengan kedai yang buat facial dekat ujung traffic light tu. Pasal dia tegak Okay Faris, daripada kolej, try to explain to us from college to Pita. Macam mana nak sampai?
Uish, kolej Pita jauh tu.
Jauh cuba cerita.
Mula-mula nak explain direction ke macam mana ni?
Direction lah macam mana cara untuk kita sampai daripada kolej ke Pita.
Dari bilik saya lah.
Dari bilik kamu?
Saya kena belok kanan dulu, kiri lagi, jumpa lift.
Okay.
Lepas tu turun lah lift.
Okay.
Turun lift, keluar kolej tu, straight, lepas tu lalu FSKM.
Oi, ni cross bangunan ni. Okay.
Dah straight jumpa roundabout kecil depan UK tu.
Tadi dah lalu FSKM macam ni pula jumpa roundabout.
Nak explain balik.
Okay.
Kiri, lepas tu kanan, lalu FSKM punya tangga tu.
Okay.
Dah nampak tasik, kiri straight lagi, kanan, jumpa Pita.
Okay, alright. Thank you. Sekejap saya nak panggil seorang lagi. Farah Ayuni. Nur Farah Ayuni Azria. Tak keluar dalam belakang ni. Farah? Are you there? Okay, Farah hilang. Siapa pergi dia? Ada dua Farah lah. Lagi satu dia Farah Misha. Oh, mic tak elok. Okay. Farah Misha, mic tak elok.
Yes, sir.
Okay, agak-agak daripada jalan yang Faris Adi bagi tahu tadi, kita sampai Pita tak?
Sampai.
Try to imagine you're first here, this is the first time you are in UiTM, and based on what Faris cakap, kita boleh sampai Pita tak?
Faris cakap macam mana tadi? Dia dari kolej Bendahara Skudai dia turun bukit, lepas tu lalu FSPP
Ada sebut turun bukit?
Oh, tak ada.
Tak ada. Notice tak apa sebenarnya yang terjadi? I know all of you can actually go to Pita. Easily you can go there. Why? Because you have the procedural knowledge. You know how to do that. Tapi not everybody have declarative knowledge. Means you can describe on how to do it. Kalau saya lah dengar Faris punya cakap tadi, saya tak sampai Pita, saya sampai dekat. Mungkin yang kali pertama tadi, tiba-tiba saya punya bayangan it is cross country, masuk dalam bangunan FSKM tu. Kali kedua dia cakap tiba-tiba ada roundabout. The roundabout is before that FSKM. So dia dah masuk dalam, kena patah balik, jumpa roundabout and then go left. Kalau saya go left, saya sampai balik kat college. Okay. That is the difference between declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. Declarative knowledge, you able to describe one by one. Sama macam Mai Sarah yang mula-mula kita nak drive pergi ke Domino's. Dia tak start kereta pun. Like what Faris say kat bawah tu kan. Tak start engine, mana nak gerak keretanya? Logik lah. Usah kata tak start engine, tak turun daripada college pun lagi. Tiba-tiba keluar UiTM, belok kanan, tegak je sampai mana tak. You don't ever stop at the traffic light. You don't ever take the left or right turn at the end of the T-junction. Macam mana nak sampai dekat Domino's? Mungkin ada orang anggap, alah benda-benda macam tu pun nak kena cerita. Declarative knowledge is that one. Means you're able to describe the action one by one. And when people follow that, it can result, okay, the result is actually the same as what need to be done. Ini selalunya apa yang coach dengan cikgu buat. They do a lot of declarative instruction. How to play soccer. You need to do this and that. Do like this. Cuba tanya player bola tu, macam mana nak buat sepakan penalti? Pergi situ sepak lah. Cuba kamu pergi situ sepak. Are your shot as good as him? It is going to be no. Tapi, cuba suruh dia buat. The shot is going to be super because that player have a good procedural knowledge. Knowledge that enable the person to actually perform the skill. And most of the time, people that have a good procedural knowledge cannot verbalize their knowledge. Tak boleh nak verbalize. Susah dia nak cerita. Macam mana aku nak cerita? Macam Mai tadi lah. Tak salah pun apa dia buat. Macam mana saya nak cerita? Yes. Kalau saya suruh buat cerita, how to drive a car. Okay, how to drive a car. You are going to say that, buka pintu, masuk dalam, start kereta, jalan. How about adjusting the seat, adjusting the mirrors, check all the system, free the gear, and then only crank the car, put on the seat belt, lepas tu buat mula-mula kan. All of that is declarative. But whatever you do, buka kereta, masuk, start and jalan, you akan terlupa all those minor detail. But in real life, you do that all of those things. You do it. Itu procedural. Boleh beza? Declarative, procedural? Can you differentiate these two? Boleh tak beza? Nampak tak perbezaan dia?
Boleh.
Okay.
Nampak?
Boleh sir, nampak.
Macam mana? Dia bagi contoh ni kan?
Yes.
Consider distinction between verbally describe how to tie your shoes and actually. Cuba cerita macam mana nak ikat tali kasut. Susah nak cerita weh. Ni tali nak kena pusing-pusing. Macam mana ikat rebin? Rebin apa nak kena ikat ni? Rebin dekat kepala Minnie Mouse ke? Rebin hadiah ke? Berapa ketat nak tarik? Berapa panjang nak lebih? All of that is declarative. But can you tie your shoes? Yes, we can. Can you describe on how to tie the shoes? No, some of you cannot. Okay, some of you don't have a good declarative knowledge, but you have a good procedural. So in order to perform an action, you need to have a good procedural. In order to teach an action, you need to have a good declarative. Not everybody have these two. Okay, kena ingat tu, declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. Two type of knowledge. Okay, next, what we have it. This is the four process in order to remember and forget. Means, apa yang ada kat sini? In order to use your short-term memory and long-term memory. So the process always start with encoding process. Process of transforming to be remembered information into a form that can be stored in memory. Means this process starts at short-term memory. They change all those information in terms of visual, in terms of auditory, in terms of all those central executive information into a shape that can be remembered by your long-term memory. Dia akan tukar bentuk tu. Jadi apa saya pun tak pasti. Apa bentuk akhir dia? Mungkin jadi file, mungkin jadi abstract, but most of the research see that we are better in remembering abstract. Dekat dalam tu dia bukan nombor or whatsoever. Dia lebih kepada abstract dan bentuk. Okay. And then from encoding, from the process of changing all those information into form to be stored, the information will be sent to storage. Process of placing information in long-term memory. Process of store that memory. All those information in short-term being sent to long-term. Ini apa dia?
Sorry sir. Bukan.
Okay, this is the process yang macam video tadi sembang. All men put the information in a box. So you just remember you have a lot of box inside your brain. Okay, and that box is not touching one another. Compared to female, they have a box, but the box is scattered everywhere in it being connected with one another. Box A sambung box B sambung box C. Kau tolonglah kaum lelaki, jangan kau ungkit satu benda. Kau ungkit A, dia ungkit A, B, C, D, selagi line tu tak putus. Lelaki lain, perempuan diungkit satu je A. Yang lelaki tu naik A je, B, C, D tak ada kat belakang. It being stored there. Okay, but not everybody is like that lah. Ada je lelaki ni yang mengungkit A sampai Z, kadang-kadang terlebih. Okay. Process of placing information. This is actually the important process. Storage. Because if you do a good storage, you can retrieve that easily. Pernah tak kamu buat satu kerja? Okay. You go for assignment. You finish up the assignment in your PC or laptop. And when the day you want to print that assignment, cari-cari tak jumpa. Pernah tak? Do you ever come across this situation?
Pernah sir.
Habis macam mana kamu selesaikan?
Saya retrieve balik lah saya punya file. Saya cari lah.
Does it take some time?
Yep.
Kenapa dia jadi macam tu pada awal? Cuba cerita.
Sama ada saya tak ingat nak save ataupun saya terus tekan X.
Tapi kalau kita tekan X, dia ada auto save. Don't worry about that. Okay.
Sama. Macam tu lah, takut tertekan.
Okay.
Save ke? Macam tu.
Kita ambil satu assignment yang panjang. Apa assignment yang paling panjang kamu pernah buat? Report, practical ke apa, something like that lah. Okay, nanti bila dah lama sikit kamu punya thesis. Remember this. You need to have a system of storage. Okay, as for me, what I do is, usually, I'm going to open up a folder. And that folder, I'm going to rename that folder with information of date and time. So I know that when there are multiple folders bearing the same name, the date and time is not going to be similar. So I know which folder is the old one, which folder is the new one. If we need all those information lah, if you don't need all of those, just update the folder. Okay. Jadi bila kita nak, I need the folder that I do last week, just search for the folder with the date that I want. Ni isu bila kita buat assignment besar-besar. Contoh, I have a friend. Okay, I have a friend. This happened during my master. So, during my time doing master, the technology is not easy like what you have today. Okay, so in order to ensure that our works is safe, we do save the work in multiple places. Ni storage we do the save, we save the work in multiple places. Komputer saya ada, komputer sebelah ada, dekat komputer fakulti ada, and we do update the works. However, when we update the works, our new file is not being stored in quite a good manners. Jadi sampai satu masa when we try to retrieve, kenapa file ni tadi aku dah buat sampai step 10 ni baru ada step 7. 3 step lagi mana? Ada dekat file lain. File tu tak tahu kat mana dah. Maybe dekat komputer sebelah, maybe dekat laptop member, maybe everywhere. Why? Because the storage is not good. So ensure that you plan your own way in order to have a very systematic storage. Because when we have a systematic storage, when we want to retrieve that, it's going to be easier. Inilah yang jadi pada kamu bila nak exam. Malam tadi study gila babi kan, satu malam tak tidur, besok masuk exam blank. It's not blank, it's there, but you cannot retrieve it out. The process is not good. The process is not very potent. Itulah cerita storage. Okay, and then after storage, we have mana saya punya? We have rehearsal. Okay, rehearsal. Betul. Sir, kalau terjadi macam tu, apa kena buat? Bagus soalan ni. Jawapan ni senang buat, tak tahu. Kejap le, jawapan dia ada kat sini. Okay, jawapan dia ada dekat sini. Ada dekat dalam nota. Okay, third step, rehearsal. Process that enable a person to transfer information from working to long-term memory. In other words, the term rehearsal here representing practice. Okay, representing practice. The more you practice, the more easier for that information to be transferred and retrieved. Inilah jawapan dia. Untuk soalan siapa tadi? Adib Faris. Macam mana nak buat? You need to practice. So why the thing that you learn at night you can't remember in the morning? Because you unable you to retrieve. Why? Lack of practice. Bila kita selalu guna file tu, contohlah, bila kamu selalu guna satu equipment, let's say bola sepak kat rumah, selalu main bola, can you easily find the ball? Selalu main bola kat rumah, tiap-tiap petang main bola. Soalan dia, can you easily find your ball and boots? Senang ke susah nak jumpa? Cuba siapa jawab. Senang aja. Okay. Katalah kamu pernah main catur, lepas tu tak main setahun. Dekat mana papan catur tu sekarang? Can it be being easily be found? Susah. This is rehearsal. So when you keep on rehearse, when you keep on practice, that information will become much significant, and it going to be much easier for you to pull it out. Okay, and to pull it out, it comes to the fourth process, retrieval, process of searching through long-term memory for information needed for present use. So macam mana kita nak mudahkan retrieval? A lot of rehearsal. Okay, saya bagi satu contoh. Katalah saya bagi kamu tiba-tiba kan, sejam lagi, okay, this is your first quiz. This is your first quiz. The quiz cover up until topic of apprehension, topik yang lepas. Okay, topik minggu sebelum cuti raya. Tiba-tiba ni, kamu rasa kalau saya bagi kamu buat open book test with half an hour and 30 question, is it easy for you to answer the question? Open book test, 30 minit, 30 soalan. Boleh jawab dengan senang? Kenapa?
Susah sah.
Ada
Sebab
nota kan?
dah lama tak buka.
Ha?
Sebab dah lama tinggalkan.
Dah lama tinggalkan. Tapi kan saya bagi kamu tengok nota.
Tapi lambat ke nak cari satu-satu?
Yes. Lambat nak cari satu-satu. Okay. Compare tu, I give you the same information, but I said, okay, the test will be tomorrow. Is it going to be much harder compared to today? Besok kita akan ada quiz 30 soalan 30 minit, chapter 1, 2, 3. Agak-agak banding dengan hari ni, mana lagi susah nak jawab. Dan kenapa besok senang? Jawapan kawan kamu dah bagi, because kita kena cari lambat. Although we have the notes, but we don't know where to find that particular information. Tapi kalau you do a lot of practice, means you learn, you read, although you don't remember a lot, kan, there will be some keywords that you are going to pick up. Contoh, bila kita sebut Golgi tendon organ, oh, you akan terus teringat, ni topik minggu lepas. So you dah tak perlu nak search from first chapter until 6th chapter. You know that this is the 5th one. Just open the 5th one, there will be GTO. Kalau kita cerita tentang frontal loop, you know that is neuromotor basis. Buka topik nombor 2. Walaupun kamu tak boleh ingat what is the function of frontal loop, but you know where to find that. Inilah proses rehearse and retrieval. Okay, in order to make the retrieval process become much easier, you need to do a lot of rehearse. You need to practice a lot. Same as learning. Learning is a process. So you need to practice. Macam mana nak practice learning? Reading. Sama lah semua topik, semua subjek yang lain. You need to read. It does not mean you are going to remember everything that you read. But by reading, you are going to get all those keywords, all those significant points to you. And when you see things in the question, you know where it come from. And at the end of the day, you can actually solve the problem. Because like I said earlier, whatever thing that involved to you, it being stored inside your long term. It's just that you cannot retrieve. If you're able to retrieve that, it will be a lot easier for you to live in this university life. Ada je benda tu kat dalam tu. Tak jumpa je sebenarnya. Okay, so do a lot of rehearse and the retrieval process is going to be much easier. Retrieval susah bila macam mana? Okay, Nak cari maklumat masa umur 3 tahun. Add for you. Aku tak ada idea langsung apa aku buat masa umur aku 3 tahun. But if you keep on talking, have a conversation with your families, talks about throwback about your life, it become much easier. Oh, masa ni macam saya, masa umur saya not 3 tahun, it will be setahun lebih. Saya pernah makan gula-gula Vicks yang bentuk 3 segi and tercekik. My father turned me upside down, smacked behind me and the gula-gula fall out of my mouth. Boleh ingat lagi benda umur 18 bulan, setahun setengah. Jangan tanya kenapa masa umur setahun setengah aku dah makan gula-gula. Aku pun tak tahu. Okay, but you have some information on that. Sama macam Mai Sarah tadi. Macam mana nak pergi S2? Mana boleh ingat? Tak ingat rasa kena pakai GPS. GPS is one of the way that help you retrieve. Mungkin dekat situ dia tunjuk sikit je masuk dekat Seremban 2. Sampai situ, oh rupanya nak pergi ni macam ni. Now you remember. It is not now you remember, but now you able to retrieve information. The information is there. Okay, tu dia. 4 proses to remember and forget. Okay, next one. When we try to talk about test, okay, this test is to assess the memory. Okay, memory of what? Kita ada 2 jenis knowledge tadi. We have procedural knowledge, we have declarative knowledge. Declarative knowledge is best tested by explicit memory test. Okay, apa tu explicit memory test? Macam benda-benda yang kita buat dekat quiz and test. We want you to recall back what you have learned. Okay, recall ni macam ni. Okay, contoh recall kan, saya bagi contoh. Macam ni. Okay. Ni huruf apa? Huruf apa ni?
sir.
A.
Ni?
A.
Ni?
Q.
U?
Q.
Q? Bukan. Ni bukan Q, ni acceleration. How about this? How about this? Ni apa? Ni huruf kat tengah ni, bukan anak panah ni. Ni huruf apa?
Sembang 4.
X gila. Ni? Sempang 4 kecil. Okay. Kalau macam ni huruf apa?
Orang boleh ubah.
Orang boleh ubah. Yes. Okay. Ini yang kita panggil sebagai apa? Recall test. So we recall back whatever things that we have learned. Meaning, things tu, kalau kita belajar dulu 1 tambah 1, soalan dia pun 1 tambah 1. Itu recall. Recognition ni macam ni. Okay, kalau kita kata recognition test ni kan, benda macam ni. We have learned this one. 1 tambah 1 sama dengan berapa? 2 kan? Betul tak? Betul tak? Siapa kata salah repeat? Betul tak?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Betul.
Kalau X tambah 4 sama dengan 7, X sama dengan berapa?
3.
3. Ini recognition. Means you use information that you have to solve future problem. To recall and recognition. Okay. Now, question yang keluar dekat situ, how to drive from UiTM to Domino's. Benda yang kita susah nak explain. But we can actually perform it. Okay. So, bila kita cerita tentang benda yang susah nak explain and we can perform, okay, bila kita cerita benda susah nak explain and we can perform, so, that is actually an implicit memory test. Okay, implicit is the thing that we cannot explain, but it is better to be executed, perform. Itu beza implicit and explicit. Implicit more on declarative. Explicit more on explicit is more on declarative, implicit is more on procedural. Itu beza dia. Okay. Sekejap ya, saya ada satu soalan nak kena jawab ni. Okay. Bagi saya 4 minit. Alright. Okay. Boleh bezakan explicit, implicit. Kita ada dua je jenis test. Okay, implicit test and explicit test. This test is to measure the level of memory. Alright. Okay. This is 3 different reason why we tend to forget. Yang ini dia ada macam mabuk sikit, pening sikit. So, please hear carefully. The first one is trace decay. Okay. Trace decay ni, it come from root word of decay ataupun perebutan. Jadi, this is what we call it. The main reason behind this is still undetermined. So they don't know why we keep on forget. Cuma when trace decay happen, we do have the information, the memory, but the memory is not complete. Macam ada lubang-lubang. Tu trace decay. Ingat, lepas ni tak ingat lah apa jadi. Tapi lepas tu benda-benda ni. Tengah tu you lupa. Tu trace decay. Okay. Retroactive and proactive interference. Okay. These two is more towards learning process. Okay. Proactive interference means that whatever things that you have learned before interfere with whatever thing that you have learned in the future. For example, untuk proactive. Katalah dulu you play a lot of badminton. Okay, you play badminton. Alright. Kalau kita nak buat stroke badminton, macam mana kita pukul? Are we going to swing the whole hand or are we going to use a lot of wrist action? Yang mana satu kita buat? Kita nak buat stroke kan? Ke the whole hand? Mana selalu kita main? Wrist or the whole hand segment? Yang mana satu? Guys, come on. Badminton.
Apa tu tadi?
Wrist.
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 Okay.
Wrist.
Katalah kamu main tennis. You play after playing badminton for quite a very long time. Tiba-tiba masuk tahun tu, okay, today I'm going to play tennis. Jadi bila kamu main tennis macam ni, at the first 2 or 3 play, you're still going to use the wrist. Ni masuk proactive inhibition. Okay, the thing that you do in the past interfere with whatever you do in present because memory to overlap. When there are similarities, the memory will overlap. Try to remember what we have learned in chapter Theory of Motor Control. Okay, GMP. Kita akan ada GMP. Dalam GMP itu, it store information about apa? Benda yang tak berubah, benda yang sama antara dua action. When the thing is similar, it will be stored in one file. Ni penyebab proactive inhibition. The difference is only towards the equipment. The difference is only towards the force. But the action is quite similar. And due to that, some of the images overlapping. And it somehow hinder the performance. Tapi tak banyak. Through practice, you are going to lose the habits. Retroactive inhibition pula, whatever that you have learned at the past, okay, prohibit the thing that you want to do in the future. Okay, ini retroactive ni kan, you bayangkan benda macam ni. Trial, okay, trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, trial 4, trial 5, up until one point, you are going to feel that you are lacking of control. You are relying on the trial before. Ni retroactive inhibition. The reason is quite simple. Because of the trial is similar, there will be an overlapping. Okay, similarity of the trial. Sama je dengan atas. Cuma yang atas, benda yang kita buat dulu mempengaruhi benda yang kita buat kemudian. Kita terbawa-bawa benda yang kita buat dulu. Contoh kita main tenis pula. Where in tennis, the ball can be volley, the ball can be bounce. Okay, bola boleh bounce, you can return. Bola boleh volley, you can return. And then you main badminton. Kau pun bagi bola tu bounce dulu, kau ketuk balik. terbawa-bawa. Tu proaktif. Okay, that is proaktif. Retroaktif ni, benda yang kita belajar baru, kita terikut-ikut benda yang kita belajar kemudian. Tapi jangan bayangkan belajar new things. It means that the trial itself, okay, the trial itself makes memory consolidation quite problematic. Why? Because of the similarities. Bila kita buat trial baru, we try to have a new improvement towards our skill. Okay. However, you are going to notice that benda yang kita buat baru tu somehow is quite similar as before. Kita rasa. Okay, it's quite similar as before. That is retroactive inhibition. So this trace decay and inhibition process limit storage of information. Tapi dia bukan lama lah. Through practice, benda ni akan hilang. Okay, it is not permanent. This is 3 main reason why we tend to forget. Okay. So how we want to increase the ability of saya nak tengok satu benda kat sini. How we want to increase the ability for us to actually memorize things. Okay, sekejap ya. Okay, so the first one, in order for us to increase our understanding, our memory, we need to focus more on location and distance. Movement and point location remembered better than the movement distance. Okay, maksudnya, when we teach people on executing a motor skill, okay, it is better to show them how to do it so they know the shape of the action. Not emphasizing on the distance. Maksudnya kalau katalah kita nak buat stroke kan, okay, we try to do a badminton stroke. Kita ajar dia buat stroke, okay, stroke will be like this. Regardless, berhenti kat sini ke, berhenti kat depan ke, but the stroke pattern should be like this. Not focusing on, okay, you need to open up until there, no. But the shape itself. Tu maksud yang pertama. So shape visually is much easier for people to remember. Okay, tu yang pertama. Okay. And then number 2, we need to put meaning to the movement. Okay, ini kalau kamu ajar dekat budak-budak lagi senang. Meaning that when you try to teach action, okay, to kick a ball you need to do in step, jangan tonjol. Kalau kamu cakap macam tu je, dia tetap akan tonjol. But you put meaning. If you do tonjol, it will hurt your toes and the action is not going to be accurate. If you go for instep, the kicking can be much accurate. Budak faham benda macam tu. They need to know why. Put a meaning to the movement and they will remember much better. Okay, and then we increase the movement meaningfulness. Macam mana kita nak increase movement meaningful? 1, we can put a metaphoric image. Contoh, okay, sepak dalam tak faham. Cuba sepak macam David Beckham. Saya tak tengok bola, sorry. Dia, nampak? So, try to put some metaphoric image. Means, we need to relate that action to someone or something that is great. Orang akan cepat ingat. Ataupun, we put label. Means kita ajar orang, okay, this is instep, this is tonjol. You put there names or whatsoever so that people know jangan buat macam ni. And put a diagram or put a model, people can actually observe. Meaning, we increase the movement meaningfulness. Okay, and then, if we try to have a good memory performance, we need to have intention to remember. Things that we remember, some of that is intentional. Some of that is incidental. Okay, contoh, kita belajar. Ada 10 point. Mungkin kamu kena letak intention. You need to put intention in your mind. I need to remember all these 10 item. Okay. Kadang-kadang masa kita buat tu, tengah buat sampai 5, terlanggar air tumpah. Alamak. So during alamak tu, mungkin ada nombor 6, nombor 7 yang kamu teringat. That is incidental. Okay? Accidentally, remember. Intentional, lain. Kamu memang nak ingat. So you need to put effort to remember. Because intentional remembering things is much easier for you to retrieve compared to incidental. Incidental, when you try to retrieve that, you need to actually be in that particular situation again, and then you are going to remember. Okay, the intention to remember. And then subjective organizing sequence of movement. Okay, subjective organization lebih kurang macam yang tadi kita buat chunking. We took a lot of measurement, we took a lot of strategy in order to further enhance. Okay, kita susun, kita ingat benda daripada besar ke kecil. All of that helps in enhancing memory performance. Okay, and then finally we have practice test context effect. So refer to the relation between memory encoding and retrieval process. State that the more the test context resemble the practice, the better the retention. Okay. Practice test context effect is better in motor control situation. Contoh, apa maksud encoding specificity principle? It said that if you try to excel in test, in practice, try to have similar situation as the test. Maksudnya, if you want to excel in motor control test, learn motor control. Jangan pula you learn anatomy and physiology and try to relate. Mengagak-ngagak, itu maksud dia. So, read, learn, practice the thing that you need to conduct in test. This is the meaning of it. Practice specificity. Okay? Apa yang kamu buat, itu yang akan keluar. So, if you know that the test is from chapter 5 to 8, learn chapter 5 to 8. Itu maksud dia. And don't just learn chapter 6 and 7 and try to bluff all the way. Itulah maksud dia. Refer to the relationship between memory encoding and retrieval process. State that the more the test contact can be tournament. Okay, test contact resemble the practice, the better the retention performance. Meaning kat sini, you need to practice all the variation you have so that in the actual or real situation, you can execute the action fluently because you have the information. You have rehearsed all the information, and this is why experts need at least 10,000 hours, because they don't need that hours. They do need the experience, the memory of all that pattern. Due to the fact that when the competition occurs, they have multiple choice to be execute accordingly to the situation. Ini maksud practice test context effect. Okay, what are some implication of the principle for practicing motor skill? Itulah implication dia. We need to learn a lot of motor skill because we don't know what situation we are going to face. If we know what situation we are going to face, practice that one. You're going to excel. So that is the topic for today, which covering the memory component, short-term memory, which comprising of visual spatial, apalagi kita ada chronological and central executive, and long-term memory, which comprising of procedural, semantic, and episodic. Okay, and then we have two type of knowledge, declarative and procedural, where in order to test them, declarative is much benefit being tested by explicit, okay, and procedural is much effective to be tested by implicit, and finally forgetting, cause of forgetting, which we have a trace decay, a proactive inhibition, and a retroactive inhibition, and some of the strategies for you to enhance your memory retention. So that will be the topic for today. So do you have anything to ask?